हमारा आजादी हम छीन कर लेंगे।
Hello and welcome to PTV World's special transmission for Kashmir Solidarity Day. 5th February every year is observed as Kashmir Solidarity Day, and this particular 5th February is being observed with even more fervor in Pakistan and amongst Kashmiris due to the fact that on August 5th, the Kashmiri people lost their special status and when the Indian government revoked Article 370 and 35A, they lost their special status in that country, and after that the same people, the Kashmiri people in Indian occupied Kashmir, have been under a siege. Literally, they have had an internet blackout and they have had restrictions in their mobility. There have been forced detentions of children almost as young as 9 years of age, forced disappearances, and the entire political leadership has been detained in that region, and also protesters have been killed. Women have their reports of women who've been raped, not even since this date, but in the past as well. So there's a very, very stifling and difficult situation in Indian occupied Kashmir. And this day today we observe to show solidarity with our Kashmiri brethren and their struggle for freedom. And we also remember the martyrs who've lost their lives in this very legitimate fight for freedom, which has been granted to them by several United Nations resolutions. We begin our program now with our guests who are here with us in the studio today. We've got a panel of wonderful experts who can tell us exactly about this situation and what has been happening and why it is so important right now for the international community to take cognizance of this issue, because it is now a very, very tense situation there, and it's creating a much more tension also between the two neighboring countries of India and Pakistan, who are also nuclear armed countries. So we're going to be speaking to our panelists now. We have with us in our studio Brigadier Salim Butt, who's a senior analyst. We also have with us Ambassador Aslam Rizvi, who's a former ambassador, and he was also the former secretary for the Parliamentary Committee on Kashmir. And we also have with us Dr. Asma Shakir Khwaja, who's a foreign relations expert and an expert on Kashmir affairs, and she's also the author of the book Shaking Hands with Clenched Fists. Thank you, all three of you, for being with us today on this very, very important occasion. And sir, I'll begin with you. We are talking today about Kashmir Solidarity Day, and we also know that we'll go into the historical context. We've got some very, very learned people over here who can give us that. But as a military person, you've seen this struggle going on now. We've seen it for over 70 years, beyond all of our lifetimes. So where do you see that there'll be some sort of respite for the people of Kashmir? And we've seen that lately the situation has even further deteriorated and there's sort of no end in sight.
Right. I think all freedom struggles have to pass through very, very difficult phases, and unfortunately what we are seeing since 5th of August last year, when Article 370 and 35A were revoked, ever since then, India has kept Kashmir under lockdown, as you mentioned. They are totally isolated from rest of the world. No internet, no journalists are permitted to go there. UN observer, for the last almost 20 years, they have not allowed UN observer group to visit Kashmir. Your particular question is respite. I think this is not the time for respite probably. This is the time to maximize the struggle. It is, as today we are celebrating Kashmir Solidarity Day all over Pakistan. So in every nook and corner of Pakistan, the people are showing their solidarity, their commitment with the cause of Kashmir. It is not only in Azad Kashmir of Pakistan, but all over Pakistan. Likewise, in the recent past, you see there are a lot of voices internationally, say the Malaysian President, Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad, Turkish President, they have raised very forceful voices. At the UN forum, you know, in mid-January this year, there was a special hearing on Kashmir. Although the session wasn't meant for Kashmir, it was to discuss Mali, but then nevertheless, on request from China, the Kashmir issue was discussed. Although the other members in the UN Security Council, like France, they opposed it. So harsh reality is that out of 5 permanent Security Council members and 10 non-permanent members, 15 members discussed Kashmir issue for the 3rd time since 5th August. So this is a big achievement in internationalizing the issue. So the freedom struggle is making its mark on all the international forums. Prime Minister of Pakistan, wherever he goes at Davos, in all his bilateral, multilateral engagement, he is highlighting and calling himself ambassador of Kashmir. So Pakistan is doing maximum diplomatically what we could do. But having said that, let me underscore another point. While freedom struggle is getting traction, not only in the region but internationally, India had worked for the last 70 years to make some mark in the international community. For example, what are the leverages on which India was harping so far? Number one, they had from the beginning taken a secular stand, and they always identified themselves as a non-aligned country. Although in reality they remained in the former Soviet Union camp, but they were always politically saying that they are a non-aligned country, but now they stand very much aligned with the American and the Western interests ever since the Indo-Pacific strategy was announced by the Americans. Number two, what was the second leverage was the soft image that they introduced themselves as the largest democracy in the world. Now, is this the norm of a democracy that we are seeing during the period of Narendra Modi? It is far from a democracy. It is not only that. I am saying within India, Congress and other opposition parties, other communities in India, and the senior minds in India, they don't call themselves anymore democracy, but in democracy you don't introduce Citizen Amendment Act as they did that.
Right, exactly. So, and these infringements on the rights of the people in India, especially the Muslims, it seemed to be going unabated in the recent past in the events that we've seen. Ambassador Saab, now I'd like to come to you and ask you that Pakistan throughout history has come and been involved in this situation since the very, very beginning. There's been UN resolutions about Kashmir, and then also diplomatically we've been speaking up for the rights of the Kashmiris, but now it's taken on a new level of steam since August 5th. So in your opinion, what more could have been done, and what is being done now, and how do we go forward?
The situation has been changed dramatically since 5th August.
Right.
We, as you know, in the beginning when the Kashmir issue came about, there was the UN General Assembly, UN Security Council resolution, which upheld the right of the people of Kashmir to determine the future, to join either with India or with Pakistan as a part of the partition plan for the states in the then Indian British India. Now, India has been consistently upholding the right of the Kashmiris for self-determination. But over the years, we have seen decades that they have on one pretext or the other avoiding this to act upon that. The whole basis for claiming the Kashmir, which they occupied, part of Kashmir which they occupied, was a so-called letter of accession made by Maharaja Hari Singh.
And that's even questionable.
That
There's
is
no
question mark.
Right.
To date, there has been the original authentic copy has not been surfaced anywhere at all. And what we now see is a continuation of the same fraud and subterfuge that the Indians were claiming. And then they had held at one time that the Constituent Assembly of Kashmir had passed a resolution acceding to India. And also, of course, the fact remains that even at that time, there was in resolution 9, if I recall properly, of 30th of March 1951, and later confirmed on the 24th of March 1957, which stated very clearly that the Constituent Assembly statement or any other action pertaining to Kashmir cannot be a substitute for the right of self-determination and is rejected. So legally speaking, there is no right whatsoever for India to have done what they have done right now. This is, I'm talking about the international law, I'm talking about the United Nations law, but even going by what the Indians' own constitution was concerned.
Right.
They,
and Prime Minister Modi sort of reneged on what previous leaders, Prime Minister Nehru and Gandhi, had promised the Kashmiri people.
All that. Now, what is now the present situation is, as rightly described by both of you, is that the post August 5, the situation in Kashmir has become very dire. It has caused immense hardship to the people. The complete lockdown of communication, the curfews, the restricted movements, etc., the denial of the international bodies, human rights bodies, etc., to visit, even parliamentarians, etc., to visit there, has, it's a camp. It's like a police, a huge police prison camp of a police. So, but I think other than that, another most draconian legislation which has been passed now by India has been the one regarding the CAA.
Right.
Because that makes the Kashmiris defenseless and stateless, as much as it's going to affect the Muslims and other minorities also in India. So this has brought about a strong reaction, not only what is happening to the Kashmiris by the oppression that is taking place, but also the future of the Kashmiris.
Right, and the rest of the Muslims
That is
in
why,
India
and
as
you
well.
find that internationally this has come under condemnation and a call for India to revoke this.
Right, and Pakistan stepped up its efforts as well to bring this whole situation to light, as well as the Kashmiri diaspora. Yes. So, ma'am, President Arif Alvi has said on this occasion that it has been a battle of hope against overwhelming odds, of courage against fear, and of sacrifice against tyranny. But through all of it, the Kashmiri people have persisted, unrelenting and proud, like they have always been, to deny India the perverse gratification of subjugating them. Now, ma'am, the Indian government, they call the Kashmiri people's legitimate right to self-determination, they call it militancy. Where is that line drawn, where a person's legitimate right under the United Nations Charter, everyone has the right to self-determination and freedom, and at the same time the government where they're trying to get their freedom from is calling it militancy? Where do we draw that line?
See, line is being drawn there. But the problem is that Indian government believes that through false propaganda and through using vocabulary which is not acceptable for international community, they can dilute the intensity of Kashmir dispute. And as and this reminds me when former British Prime Minister David Cameron visited Pakistan in 2011, and he's clearly stated that along with several other problems of the world, we are responsible for the Kashmir conflict. So whatever India is doing, like whether they are calling it militancy, whether they are calling it armed struggle or whatever, but this is an actual issue of the right to self-determination of Kashmiri people. And this is, I think, this is the responsibility of Kashmiri diaspora and Pakistan at the same time to keep working on those things, and the way, and we need to counter, or we need to present alternate perspective vis-a-vis all these Indian efforts. And see, India entered its forces in Kashmir in October 1947. So since October 1947, Kashmir has been heavily militarized by Indian state. And then when Pakistan responded and entered their Pakistan's forces in Kashmir, India ran to the UN Security Council, and it is UN Security Council which clearly stated in the resolution passed by them that Kashmir, the only solution to Kashmir dispute or conflict is the plebiscite, implementation of what people want to do with their piece of land. So the problem is, I think, like the basic difference between Pakistan and Indian perspectives on Kashmir is that for Pakistan, Kashmir is an issue of human dignity, human rights, the value of an individual, what they want to choose for themselves. And this right, definitely UN has granted Kashmiri people, but this right was also granted by the colonial power UK or Great Britain. When they were leaving South Asia, they decided that the princely states and the people would decide with which country they want to annex with and they want to go with.
Right.
So this right, and then India itself, when India accepted United Nations resolution, India actually accepted the right to self-determination of Kashmiri people at that prestigious international most effective forum. And then India and Pakistan, from 1953 to 1963, kept on negotiating the modus operandi to implement UN resolution. And that was those were state level talks. Those were between Nehru and the Pakistani leadership, Khwaja Nazimuddin, Muhammad Ali Bokra, and people who were here at power. So if Kashmir is not a disputed territory, why India negotiated for 10 years with Pakistan that how to implement plebiscite? So, and after that, whether it was Tashkent or it was Shimla agreement also clearly states that Indira Gandhi and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto signed that agreement. And that agreement states that the Kashmir issue will be resolved as per the will of Kashmiris, and bilaterally between these both countries would keep on negotiating the solution that how to implement UN resolution in Kashmir.
Right.
So for me it is ironic. There can be two possibilities. One, India use negotiations and talks to implement UN resolution in Kashmir as a time gaining strategy. So they regain, whenever they feel their control is loosening up, it is not that effective in Kashmir, or international pressure is there to resolve Kashmir, so they go for that. It is their strategy that let's waste time in negotiations and talks. And then the second thing is that India always claim, whenever Pakistan approaches or Kashmiri approach international organizations, institutions or platform, India always claims that, oh, it is a bilateral issue between Pakistan and India, which it is not. But ironically, while saying this, that it is a bilateral issue, India kept on refusing bilateral talks with Pakistan. So Indian refusal to sit on negotiation table recently during Modi regime, to sit with Pakistan on negotiation table to resolve Kashmir conflict is itself the violation of the spirit of bilateralism.
Right.
Because they have decided, both countries have agreed upon this. And then the issue of perspective, as I say, India perceived Kashmir as an issue of territorial strategic leverage. For them, it is the territory, it is the power which is associated with territory. For Pakistan, it is an issue of human plight, human dignity, human rights, and we have human perspective on Kashmir.
Absolutely.
And that is why whenever India, even falsely or with whatever intentions, suggests that let's sit on negotiation table and talk about Kashmir, Pakistan never ever even once denied such offer by India for last 72 years.
Right,
and it is
absolutely.
always India which is running away whenever Pakistan offers talks or peaceful negotiations on Kashmir. India ran away from that because maybe they have this in their mindset that the way they politically manipulate peace negotiations, maybe Pakistan also has such intentions. But the only intentions Pakistan has, that the plight of Kashmiri people should be addressed in
Right.
Kashmir problem.
Okay, so we're talking about how the Kashmiri people were promised a plebiscite. However, at the same time, we've seen gradually their rights have been eroded and the discussion of a plebiscite has completely stopped. And Prime Minister Imran Khan has said on this occasion, he said that India has turned 8 million Kashmiris into prisoners in their own land through the deployment of over 900,000 occupation troops. History has few precedents of such suffocation and violation of the fundamental rights at this scale. And, you know, he says that this is a true manifestation of Indian state terrorism. So, Brigadier Saab, now I'd like to ask you this. We're seeing the human rights violations now starting in Kashmir from 1989 when the freedom struggle began. And at that time, we saw very heavy-handedness by the Indian regime. And then again in 2016, and throughout periodically, we've seen the detention of the Hurriyat leaders, Mr. Yasin Malik and others, and also Burhan Wani, who was this iconic figure over there in India. These are all homegrown leaders. They have nothing to do with Pakistan, as India claims that Pakistan is supporting terrorism, etc. These are homegrown leaders who are struggling for their freedom. And after 2016, we also saw this extreme use of pellet guns in India against protesters, and it seems that the heavy-handedness has gotten worse. So,
Right, I think very aptly highlighted by you, the atrocities committed by India are known by the international community, but unfortunately the harsh reality is that India appears to be a big market for the international community, and especially those who are the member of the UN Security Council. I give you the example of France, for example. The recent mid-January call by Chinese was opposed by only one country, that was France. And what was at the background? Rafael deal with the huge kickback scandal already publicly known. So the hard realities are, wherever economic interest of the countries are, they would always tend to align their stances, even at the noblest forum in the world, that is UN Security Forum. And at that forum, people tend to go with the material things and not with the moral things. So therefore, Kashmiris will have to continue to fight for their self-determination right. Pakistan will have to continue to support them as we have done in the last 70 years. So we are not backing out. But likewise, we should see the half glass full, for example. International community, we got a very strong statement coming from the US Senate. Senator Umar gave a very strong statement, and she said that it is the largest prison which is at the verge of genocide about Kashmir. So the more brutalities committed by Modi government in Kashmir and the rest of India against all minorities, and especially I think they did unwittingly, they are pushing India towards implosion. What are they doing? From August, Kashmir was on the boiling point, and it had not settled internally. But they did yet another big folly by introducing the CAA, the Citizen Amendment Act.
right.
Right. So not only in Kashmir, it is all over India that you are seeing the largest protest ever in India. It's not only the Muslims who are now protesting, it is all minorities who are protesting in India. So if you hear the Congress leaders, Shashi Tharoor, who is a Congress MP from south of India, you said Jinnah has won, Jinnah is winning. By what Modi is doing, Jinnah was right in asking the separate homeland for Pakistan. So today I am forced to say that Jinnah was right, Jinnah has won.
Exactly.
Right? We have heard Shatrughan Sinha yesterday, I was hearing his interview. He was highlighting the atrocities in Kashmir.
Yes, that dream of India that they had of all the diversity of cultures and religions together is now eroding.
The Modi government, the RSS government, has actually undone the image created by the predecessors of Modi of a secular India or a democratic India. They are no more world over. They are no more known as a secular country or a democratic country. They know the farcical face has been exposed. By what? By their own missteps. So if they continue to do that, if they are actually helping the freedom struggles not only in Kashmir but in 19 other states, you know. There are live 30 insurgencies in India. 19 are very, very potent ones. Nagaland, Mizoram, Bodoland, all these northeastern India. But one more important factor is that we should continue to attach our hopes with the diplomatic solution at the forum of the UNO.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
We should not refrain from falling in the trap of Trump, for example, offering himself as a mediator. See what kind of mediation and what kind of farcical plan he has given on Palestine. And he is not only condemned by whole world, but by his own Republican and Democrats from within the country. And they
Right.
know it's a foolish plan.
Right.
So tomorrow, if we ever accept Trump as a mediator or a person like him, he might come up with a stupid plan on Kashmir as well. So therefore, I think this is a time to underscore this point, that we must not go for the bilat or the trilat. We should continue to focus on the UN forum, because that is where the whole globe is represented. Any
Right.
smaller forum is having some darker shades, and we should be very careful even uttering our desire for such a small thing.
Right, okay.
But as for the atrocity, line of control, Azad Kashmir, as you know, out of almost 84,500 square miles, Azad Kashmir is only 5,000 square miles. Remaining almost 80,000 square miles is under occupation by India. But China has a disputed claim on Aksai chain in the northeast.
Exactly.
So they are a very important
there's more than two
member
parties in
of the
this.
Security Council, and we must use this leverage of China being in the forum of the Security Council, and they also being the stakeholder in this dispute. So we should align ourselves very well with China in projecting the Kashmiri rights for privacy.
Right,
At the forum
and
of the
China has taken a stand in
Yeah,
various
and-
forums and has spoken for
And
the
that is
Kashmiri
greatly
people.
appreciated. I think they did a wonderful job.
Ambassador Saab, now, like what Brigadier Saab just said, that people, the countries in the world are looking at economic interests. However, 100,000 people have been killed in this Kashmiri struggle. Over, according to some reports, more than 100,000 people. Thousands of people have disappeared. You're having arbitrary detentions due to the laws that exist in the region, and the Army Act, etc., where people can be detained without any kind of charge against them. And young children, 9, 10, 11 years old, are being detained in the middle of the night. And the world is seeing this, the tens of thousands of women getting raped. And now you're talking about economic interests. However, the world also has a conscience. There's one side where the West is imposing restrictions such as FATF, so that to curb terrorism, terror financing, these are all good things. But how about these things where the rights of people are being squashed? What about the future of these children who are growing up in the region? Shouldn't the world be noticing this? What if they're turning, there's 8 million Kashmiris out of their millions of children. What if they're turning them into militants by what they're having to endure over decades? So.
Well, the fact remains that the world has turned a blind eye on issue like Kashmir and Palestine. We have seen that. Where fundamental rights are being denied, there's massive abuse and the almost criminal actions taken against the populace of Palestine and Kashmir. As mentioned earlier, it is the national interest of countries which are dictating the policies towards such matters. But then again, it is equally important that the voice is raised. And as we can see in the case of Palestine, it's the voice of the Israel which is heard. Because of the cohesiveness of the Jews, the support to them of the, in particular America and the Western powers.
Right.
In our part of the world, we lack that. There's division within the Muslim world. And again, I was hoping that when the Prime Minister had gone this time to Malaysia, there was some mention that there may be an idea to have a international television to project the Muslim point of view, anti-phobia, Islamophobia and so on, established between Pakistan, Malaysia and Turkey, which although the Prime Minister did talk about it in Malaysia, that our voice is not heard and so on, whereas the Jews' voice is heard. So we have to project a voice across. That is very important.
So, but in that, it's important for the Muslim world to be united on this topic and to sort of project that voice collectively, because you see that the Jewish diaspora, wherever they are, they all have one voice about Israel.
True, true. But what the point is, this is not, you don't hear, it is not, it doesn't figure in the international media many countries and citizens in many countries are not aware of what is going on here. What the idea was here to have a, a television station, maybe you know, in a way that our points of views and are projected on to correct the Islamophobia which is extending outside, anti-Muslim rhetoric which is taking place from there. It has to be more so done now in the social media. Now, the other thing we see is that thanks to what Modi has been doing in his own country with his Hindutva policy, the world has now come to realize what is happening in India, the secular policies from there, the policies against the minorities taking place from there, and you are having international media is talking about it. They're projecting Washington Post, New York Times, in France, in the UK, all over. So the voice is going. And then not only that, you find that there are statesmen and women who are coming out with statements against what is happening in India and the clampdown. So these are gradually, there is a voice is being heard directly or indirectly about the plight of the Kashmiris. Now, one of the things which I have seen over the years, I see is lacking on the part of Pakistan, is that we have failed to take the legal aspect of the Kashmiri issue. I mean, take this recent revoking of the 370 and 35A. In India, there were a team of 20 or 30 legal experts who was looked into for the next 6 months before this was announced. We have hardly any team at all. We don't look into like I said, the whole basis of the situation where we are was a legal instrument of accession, which is challengeable. It has never been challenged anyway so far.
Right, absolutely.
Likewise, we have the international laws, for example, the use of the pellet guns, and also the use of cluster bombs. There is a convention, international convention against that. We should follow up. There is also that of genocides. If for the Burmese Rohingyas, there can be a statement from the ICJ. Why aren't we pursuing the likelihood of what is going to happen to the Muslims in India?
Absolutely.
So, you know, these are aspects that we have to, apart from political, moral support, we should also think in terms of providing you know, legal assistance to them.
Pakistan has traditionally been a little more reactive rather than proactive in these matters. Ma'am, your opinion on this, how come we have not taken it yet to the International Court of Justice, where there are so many rights violations that Sir is, you know, referring to?
Apparently, I think government of Pakistan is taking one step at a time. And then if we'll go to ICJ, we need to be fully prepared before going to ICJ. If, God forbid, and if ICJ does not give verdict or decision in our favor, the impact on Kashmir conflict would be huge and massive. So we should be very careful in choosing our steps, but definitely with complete homework and with complete set of evidences, because we need to understand that Kashmir is considered as one of the most underreported conflicts, because India doesn't allow international human rights organizations or national human rights organizations or journalists or camera lens entering in Kashmir. They have seized the facilities of internet in Kashmir because they don't want that things would get reported outside of Kashmir, the actual intensity of brutality. And when we say that Modi has tarnished India's image as secular country, I think that Modi is only reinforcing the ideology which pushed Muhammad Ali Jinnah from the ambassador in Hindu-Muslim unity to the father of the nation or father of the Muslim nation.
Absolutely.
Because this mindset was always there.
Right.
And then when it comes to, as in first question you asked about India using terms or different terms to dilute the conflict. And similarly, when we talk about Kashmir, Indian claim of Kashmir being part of India, when we in India, in larger Indian state, the word Kashmiri is synonymous to anti-national. General Indian, popular Indian perception is that if someone is Kashmiri, he or she is anti-national, and being anti-national is synonymous to traitor in India. So this is how Kashmiris are connected to India. And then when people say that okay, indigenously grown freedom struggle of Kashmir, is Pakistan supporting it or whatever? But here I would like to say that no country on earth can instigate a specific community or group of people without they want to do it for themselves. The way as CAA issue is there, as the issue of revoking an Article 370 and not allowing Kashmiris to exercise their right to self-determination, India is actually curbing the basic human rights or needs of Kashmiri people for last 72 years.
Right,
so it is the natural outcome that Kashmiris would have resentment against India because the Indian state is not allowing them to live like independent human beings.
Right, and you mentioned that this is the most underreported topic internationally. However, we've also seen in the last couple of months that there have been 2 UN Security Council meetings about Kashmir. They've been closed-door meetings, and also there was a US congressional hearing about the human rights violations in Kashmir, and then there was also going to be other hearings by the EU Parliament. One got deferred about minorities' rights in India. So we're seeing that a lot of discussion is taking place. However, no concrete steps are going forward at this point. It's just discussion.
Yeah, because revolution is sudden, evolution is gradual. So what the path Pakistan has chosen to peacefully convince the international community that Kashmir is a nuclear flashpoint. Kashmir is demonstration of Hindutva ideology by Indian government. See, Kashmir is the only Muslim state where India is occupant, and then being Kashmiri a different ethnic group, being Muslim from a different religious group. India thinks that its ideology of Hindutva is being manifested in occupation of Kashmir by Indians. And I wonder that if India celebrates Bhagat Singh and other, they think the freedom fighters of of South Asia, they celebrate them, but they don't allow same right to the Kashmiri individuals. If Kashmiri freedom struggle is militancy, then what Indians did or Hindus did against British Raj was also militancy. And when they celebrate people in the name of freedom fighters during British Raj, it means they are also celebrating militants.
Even the US independence struggle against the Britain was you know,
all
freedom
over
struggle,
the
armed
world.
struggle.
Yes, and if Hindus or Gandhi or Nehru or Congress, they were against colonial rule by Britishers, then they themselves, India is a colonial power in Kashmir. They have occupied their land. So it means that Britishers were better because they provided them opportunity to fight and to work for their independence, and they are not allowing the same right to the Kashmiri people.
They also allowed a peaceful struggle.
Peaceful and militancy as well. There are lots of violent incidents in the freedom struggle by Congress against British Raj. So we should not ignore it. So it is a clear case of double standards where a colonial power India is not leaving the occupant territory of Kashmir, but they have to, because doesn't matter how powerful colonial powers were, but after Second World War their economies were unable to sustain their colonization. So that is why they left. So even like today I was reading an article on BBC that Indian soldiers in Siachen are facing acute dearth of life-saving accessories which can save them from cold and other accessories which they need to fight in Siachen. So this is the reality of Indian offensive ambitions against Pakistan. On the one hand, they claim that they can, God forbid, win war against Pakistan in 10 days. On the other hand, they are unable to provide required accessories to their soldiers in Siachen. And all of us know that the weather is the biggest enemy in Siachen because it is the highest battleground of the world. So it is the time for maybe Indian conscious, Indian educated people, Indian social workers, civil society to understand that where Modi is heading their country to. And the economy, as sir mentioned, the economy, the recently in Bengali American won the Nobel Prize for Economics, and he stated that Indian economy is on a tailspin. And he says that Indian economy is a nosedive, so they need to work on their economy. But this is not our concern. Our concern is peaceful plebiscite in Kashmir for Kashmiris, and whatever is happening at international forums and the way Pakistan is projecting or presenting this issue, I would reassert that it is Pakistan is doing it very well, but basically Kashmiri diaspora needs to work a lot on it. It is the response, because Kashmiri brothers, Kashmiri people are suffering extreme brutality during Indian occupation. So it is the duty of their Kashmiri brothers outside who are living outside India and Pakistan to work and speak for them, to raise the international conscience. Kashmiri diaspora is also an important economic and political pressure group across the globe.
Absolutely.
So they need
and now we've seen a lot of them have been elected to Parliament in the UK.
Yes. So they need to realize their power. They need to chalk out their priorities and strategy, and then they need to work united. They need, as a nation, they need to work for Kashmir. And Pakistan, definitely Pakistan is always there for Kashmir. Pakistanis are always working for Kashmiri cause, and they are raising it wherever it is possible. In
and it
every
has to be a
speech, our
coherent,
Prime Minister mentions Kashmir.
And it has to be a coherent, combined sort of strategy for the diaspora as well as for us diplomatically.
Aligned with the aspirations of Kashmiris living in Kashmir.
Absolutely. So, sir, now I'll come to you, Brigadier Saab. One question that's always hanging over us right now. In a past interview of Yasin Malik, who's a Hurit leader and who's been detained, in one of his last interviews before he actually got detained, he said that under British colonial rule, as ma'am was saying, he said that they still allowed for peaceful resistance. Here, the Indian government will not even allow peaceful resistance. They'll go and detain or murder peaceful leaders as well. And he said, if you push Kashmiri people against the wall, he goes, our generation has passed, but the youth are going to fight back. Now, they're being pushed against the wall now, and there's possible consequences after the curfew, etc., lifted, and the lockdown, clampdown right now in Kashmir is lifted. Prime Minister Imran Khan has repeatedly said his concerns about there being a lot of bloodshed and all, and then a false flag operation to put the blame on Pakistan. Again, the terrorism claims that the Indian government keeps making about Pakistan, that somehow all of this is being caused by Pakistan. There's a huge risk of something like this, in your opinion. So the two countries, I mean, they're nuclear armed countries. So how can we deter something like this from happening?
I think it's a great point that you have brought up. Prime Minister has very rightly pointed out to the international community the peril of letting India and Pakistan continue to fight about Kashmir. We have already fought 4 wars, and any future war cannot be wished away, you know. If Kashmiris are pushed to the wall, if you sit among common people in Pakistan, in Azad Kashmir or anywhere in Pakistan, you know, most of the people are bubbling with anger and saying, why aren't Pakistan physically helping Kashmiris, because otherwise the Kashmir movement is going to die down. You know, that is the public opinion. So how long a political government can sustain the public pressure from within? So, but I want, the whole world understand that the biggest flashpoint between two nuclear power is Kashmir. They've already fought 4 wars. So the history is well documented, known by the international community, and in the heart of the heart, they do know the risk attached with any future war between India and Pakistan.
And we've seen aggression across the line of control by
Right.
the Indian
So,
army. It
line of
happens
control, for example,
periodically.
line of control, I have been there 6 long years continuously on the line of control. I have seen that line of control is continuously like no war, no peace. It's in a state of war, but from the Indian side, as a strategy, they always target the civil population.
Yeah.
From Pakistani, morally, we are bound not to do that. That is one reason. Secondly, within 5 kilometers of the line of control, Indians have removed all civil population.
Right.
There is nothing on their side. So they have a greater leverage by targeting the Muslims across the line of control inside Azad Kashmir.
And their homes and their shops,
Right.
their
They
livelihood,
save
their
nobody.
livestock.
The women, the children,
And
they
Pakistan
target
doesn't
them.
attack Kashmiri
Now,
brothers. even
I want to
towards
pick up
the
an important point from what Madam Khaja highlighted. She highlighted the peril of going to ICJ, International Court of Justice. And that brings me to a point, ma'am, that you also highlighted the strength of the Kashmiri diaspora from occupied Kashmir as well as Azad Kashmir. They are spread all over the world and they are very strong in Europe, especially in UK, in America. Why can't we pick up a new thing, you know? Let's have a government in exile from the occupied Kashmir. And they should be the one who should actually go to the International Court of Justice. They should be the one who should be going to the international fora, not only Pakistan. Because the biggest stakeholder in the Kashmir dispute is the Kashmiris themselves. In the last 72 years, it has always been the government of Pakistan who had been running here and there in order to help the Kashmiris. But why can't, if Dalai Lama can make a government in exile, why can't the Kashmiris make a government in exile? If nobody is able to host them, why not they sit in and make a government in exile in Azad Kashmir of
Ma'am,
Pakistan?
your response to this?
Yeah, because I think the government of Azad Jammu and Kashmir is already representing the whole Kashmir.
No, what I'm saying
It
is,
is the Azad government of
globally it
Jammu
has
and
to be
Kashmir.
acknowledged that
Yeah,
way,
there
that the government
can't
is
be
exile.
two governments
being
in
done by,
exile
already
of,
working
of
and
one territory.
The president
So maybe
and
we need to strengthen the
Prime
capacity
Minister have
of
been already
Azad.
going around
Yeah.
the world. Yes.
So it should be what I'm saying is it should be the Kashmiri representative
Yes.
who should be voicing their concerns, because when we speak, they always blame us that we are supporting terrorism. It's not a terrorism, it's a freedom struggle. You rightly pointed out, and you conflated that with the American War of Independence. And Americans do understand. The French do understand. Who was supporting the Americans? The
It was the
French,
French,
against whom? The Brits. You know, so likewise, these issues with the historical facts have to be highlighted by the Kashmiris themselves. But as for Pakistan, I get a lot of calls from my friend. I write on Kashmir. I'm a Kashmiri. My parents migrated from Kashmir.
Right.
So we have a larger family still in Kashmir. So we really smell their blood being spilled out there. We feel their pain.
Right,
And
absolutely.
all of Pakistani, they feel their pain. But this
Absolutely we do.
pain has to be converted into some tangible action. It's not the mere statement utterances. For example, if Pakistan has to do something more diplomatically, we should, not only the UN but the Arab League, the OIC, they are in a state of inertia. We have to shake them up. If there is some larger community in the world, for example, where are the Indian diaspora mostly working? The whole of Middle East, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, there are millions and millions of Indians working there. So if one country pushes them out, it's
Right.
going to give a big jolt.
Right. If
Mahathir Mohamad.
if they're all to boycott Indian products,
Right.
etc. We've come to the end of our program, sir.
Right.
Thank you so much. You've summed it up very well, and I would have liked to get concluding remarks from all our guests, but that's all the time we have for this particular time of the transmission. Thank you so much, Brigadier Salim Butt, Ambassador Aslam Rizvi, and Ma'am Asma for joining us and giving your insights on this very important topic for Pakistan and for the Kashmiris. And that brings us to the end of this part of the transmission. The transmission will continue today about Kashmir Day, so keep watching PTV World, and that's all for now from me, Sharmeen Ali. Bye-bye.